How's it going, everybody? This is Tre Hendrix and the Tre Hendrix Podcast, and I do have a special guest. I'll allow him to introduce yourself.
I'm Russell Carpenter. I'm stoked to be here, man.
Hey, I'm glad to have you, man. I know we have a mutual friend, John, in common. He introduced me to you, and he introduced me to you as a songwriter, but I'm sure you're, more than that if you could go over what you do musically.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, man. I put out two solo records. One was a rock and one was a folk record. And I did those with Will Niswanger and Eric Fuller, as well as David Carpenter, my dad. He played bass. And then we ended up forming a band together, which should have music this summer, and that's the Speed Wobbles. It's like a punk rock band.
Oh, okay.
But man, God, what I've done, I've been in songwriting forever. I've been a ghostwriter on a ton of projects. I started music in hip hop. I wanted to be a rapper, dude. Growing up, yeah, hell yeah, man. I love rap, man. It turns out I don't have the voice and whatever. All good, but I grew up in West Anaheim, and that was it, man. If you're a rapper, you got the girls, you got all the cool shit,
Yeah.
So I actually put out like a 4-song rap album, and it did not do well.
Is it still out? Could I still find it?
No, hell no. I don't even think I have it anymore. Fuck that, dude. It was gone in the wind. But what it did do is I had a lot of people reach out to me and say, yeah, you shouldn't rap, man, but you should write, you know, and that started getting in my head of, oh, well, maybe I could write, and so then I did a couple kind of mentorships and whatever with some people to learn how to write for other people. So that's kind of how you know me. That's how John or Crow Cooks, that's how we work together, is I'll write for artists that work with him.
Is it difficult to write for someone else? Because, you know me, I'm a rapper. If I tried to write bars for someone else, it would be weird. Like, I couldn't do it. It would be difficult. So I'm asking you, is it hard at first, or?
Well, at first it was weird. And especially because one of the problems I have with my writing that I've been working on forever is I tend to get too personal, and I make it too much about me, and I don't do it broad enough. So that was like killer, man, because this is not only not about me, but it's like a whole other story. So it definitely in the beginning was something I had to learn how to do. And then now I actually find it easier. And when I write, when I'm writing for this punk band and whatnot, I'm often writing stories. I'm not exactly writing about myself. So.
Okay, yeah, that's mad interesting. And it's crazy because me coming from hip hop, ghostwriting is, I guess you could say, taboo, or songwriting in general for someone else is taboo in hip hop, even though other genres like R&B, pop, or whatever, it's normal. Do you have a opinion on that, or why that is?
I think that's bullshit, man. I think I do. I think it's so hard to be in music, man. It's, to be big in music, you have to be able to deliver. You have to be able to have the look. You have to be someone that people want to hear, and you have to fucking write, man. And at a certain point, is, you know what I mean? It's like, why it shouldn't have to be that way, and it doesn't, man. And if there's someone with a cool voice who's got the look, who's got the attitude, who can deliver, who can get a following, so who cares if they can fucking write? There's plenty of people that can write. You know what I mean? Like, so I think there's no reason to feel less confident in your work if you didn't write it, man. It's you were still able to deliver it in a way that people want to hear, and that's all that matters.
And I agree completely. Like, at least me as a consumer, like, I don't care how the song is made or whatever goes into it. To me, it just needs to be good. I don't care about if you wrote it yourself or you had 20 other writers in the room helping you. Like, as long as it's good, like, generally people don't really care. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, Dr. Dre, it's been in hip hop forever. Dr. Dre hasn't written a single line in his life. Everything you hear from Dr. Dre was written by someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And but he's still fucking Dre, man. There's no denying him, right?
Agreed.
He's got the voice. Now he has headphones and shoes and shit
Mm-hmm.
because he's got that much of a following and that much of a look. So who cares if he wrote the shit? It sounds good, and it's, I love his music. So
And,
yeah.
and you came from like a musical background because you said your dad, was a musician. Is that correct?
Yeah, my dad's a touring musician. So growing up, he was working with people. He's been in Dead Rock West, which is one of my all-time favorite bands ever. He's been in Dead Rock West forever, and he just it's been like 12 years now, but he's been touring with Roger Hodgson, who is the singer for Supertramp.
Okay,
Playing bass. Yeah,
that's tight.
yeah. He works with John Doe is another huge influence that he's gotten to work with. I love John Doe from X. These are probably punk references. I don't know
No, I'm not really a punk rock guy, but I'm just nodding my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got you. That's all right. That's all right. There's gonna be one person listening, going like, "No fucking way, God!" And this is for you, man. This is for the person who gets it. But yeah, so we had instruments laying around always, and he's always been my harshest critic, and thank God for it. Right? Like I remember being in the studio with Eric Fuller and maybe there's a couple other people in the studio, and I'm recording this song and it's sounding terrible, but none of them want to tell me, right? And I'm doing this folk song, and my dad had just gotten there, so he hadn't gotten in the thing. And they're like, "Yeah, it sounds okay, man. Maybe try." They're being real nice, He comes on, he hits the thing, he goes, "Sounds like you're trying to do the heroin thing, but you sound like shit." And I was, "Fuck you, Dad," but it worked. And and then the song came out, and it's come back for anyone that's heard it, but it ended up being a great song. So.
And when you write, say if you're writing a hip hop song or a folk song or whatever genre, is your approaches different per genre? Like if you write obviously if you're doing a hip hop song, you're going to approach it differently than if you're just going to write your punk song or something?
Yeah. So punk is a whole other thing. So
yeah.
when I'm trying to write punk rock, what I'm really focused on is the message, right? I just was writing a tune about, the opiate crisis. And that's something, that's the sort of shit I try to focus on when it's that, but with hip hop, I love hip hop because it doesn't really always matter what you're saying. It's how you say it.
Agreed.
And I love that, man. That's so much fun to me. And what I'll do is, because if you're writing like a Boats and Hoes song, right? Like a I'm So Cool song.
Yeah.
There's only so many ways you can say you get head. But you make that sound cool, I'm getting throat in the back of a Civic. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it's cool. And it makes people want to listen. And it's like a puzzle to me, man. I love that shit. I love hip hop, man.
All right. So another question. You said you grew up West Anaheim, right?
Yeah.
What high school you go to?
So my home school is Magnolia.
Okay.
But I went to Oxford.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. That's where I met John Crow Cooks.
Oh, okay.
Was Oxford. He was smart enough to leave. I stayed till I got kicked out, and I got kicked out my end of sophomore year, and I was gonna go. Actually, I was gonna drop out of high school completely, and then John Crow Cooks, whatever, John, he was going to Kennedy, and he got me an in, and so they enrolled me in Kennedy. So I was dropped out of high school for like an hour.
Oh, okay.
And then because of him, I went and finished out and got my diploma.
Oh, that's good. Damn, I didn't know you went to Oxford though, or at least had a stint in Oxford.
I tried. Yeah, I tried to go to Oxford. Yeah, man. I went there for 4 years. I went there in 7th grade and stayed till, like I said, my sophomore year.
Yeah, because I had the opportunity to go in junior high, but I was like, no, all my friends are going to South. That's where I need to go.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, but I feel like high school is really time. I was gonna say to find yourself, but I feel like that's kind of more college, I would say. What do you think?
Well, it depends, man. You know, there's some people that get into high school and just they do great and they have a great time and they're captain of the who gives a fuck and they love it. And then there's guys like me that were weird as hell, never really fit in, fucking always was trying to have a new look and maybe that will work. And I was super, you know, I was super insecure all of high school and it took, but it didn't exactly take college. It took, you know, which I think we're going to get into maybe a little, but it took figuring my life out to really kind of feel comfortable in me.
No, agreed. And fast forward, so okay, maybe rewind. I'm trying to think. All right, high
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
So you were making music in high school? Let me make that clear. Or were you
Dude,
thinking
that
about
was my rap career, bro. That was yeah, hell yeah. I had been making a bunch of music. I was working with a producer, Step One, who is out in San Luis Obispo. Awesome fucking dude. And I got connected to him through my dad, and he really opened the door for me as far as how to write. And he's such a sweetheart. He wanted to like help me out, so he backed me up on this hip hop album,
Uh-huh.
which again, like maybe wasn't the smartest career choice, but it did open door, and he was the one that kind of introduced me to that concept of it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so that was sort of what was going on in high school. Yeah.
All right, so fast
Listen to that.
forward. Oh, wait, how old are you now?
I'm 20 and I'm about to turn 21.
Bro, you're only 2 years removed from high school?
I'm young, man. I'm young. Yeah.
See, I feel you're making me feel old right now, dog. Dang.
I'm older than John. So I got that on
So how'd you end up in Canada?
him. I ended up in Canada. Basically, my mom had this. She really wanted me to go to school. I didn't even think I was going to graduate high school, so I was not stoked on college, and I just it wasn't even really an option at the time. And so she applied to like 32 schools without my knowledge. And I got into three. I got into two in like nowhere New York, and one in Montreal in Canada. And at the time I thought Montreal was in Europe, and I was like, I'm not moving to Europe, man. Like, you know, so I was like, no, fuck no. And then I forgot if she told me or if someone else told me, but they go, well, you know, the drinking age is 18. And I said,
Oh, that was enough for you to.
There it was. That was it, man. I was like, well, when's my flight? Oh, Europe it is, dog. Like,
You thought I was going to some French city or something?
Yeah, I got my fucking, you know, the French hat on, and I'm ready to go. My striped shirt and shit on my moped. I'm
Oh
on my
my
way.
God, that's funny.
Yeah. So that's how and then I ended up coming out here and loving it, man. And I sort of got more involved in school, and I started tattooing out here, and here I am, man.
So, what's the differences between like Canada and America? Because people here make jokes like Canada's like diet America, you know what I mean? But from your but your perspective, like what are the like differences when you first stepped in? You're like, oh shit.
Well, it's French as hell was the first. I mean, I'm in Montreal, so that was I moved to where it's the Frenchest part of the country.
Yeah.
So that was a big one, and I didn't really. I mean, someone gave me a French dictionary early on, and I was like, "Why do I need this?" And then I got here and was like, "Oh shit, that's why I need this." But it's funny. When I was coming here, I had a totally different picture in my head. I was picturing like country, like wilderness, right? But dude, it's like Boston is the kind of it looks almost exactly like Boston here, and I think the biggest difference is the trust. There's such a trust in the system, and not everyone, and not in every aspect, but in general, especially in a time like this, you know, we immediately everyone was like, "Okay, Trudeau, what's up? Like, what do we do?" Mm-hmm. Whereas in the States, man, everyone's like, "Fuck, I don't know who to listen to. I don't really trust the health people. I don't really trust the president. I don't know what to do." And out here, it was immediately like, "Okay, private, you know." We were looking at the prime minister. What's up? What is this? And that's huge, man.
Oh yeah, that's way different here. People here, it's like you can't tell them nothing. They'll be skeptical of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what else. I'm trying to think of my notes.
Yeah.
So
I've been a promoter of Canada this whole time. Like, you want free healthcare and cheap rent?
Is it really that cheap over there?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, it's going up a little right now, but yeah, man. My first apartment was a 1-bedroom in like downtown, and it was $840, and that's Canadian. Yeah, that's Canadian too, which is $1.40 to every US dollar. So it was like 30 US a month.
That's cheap and Montreal's not like, a country town, like it's a city.
Oh, it's a city. It's a full-blown city. Yeah.
Man, tell Southern California that, bro. Like, I'm all here. I moved out my parents' house, like struggling here in Santa Ana.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Hey, that's huge though, man. That's a lot of people, either never get there, so that's a big thing. You should be proud of yourself for moving out.
Hey, appreciate that, man. And the last podcast I had with Noah and John hasn't dropped yet, but we did talk about, mental health and the importance of being mentally healthy. I was wondering if you had any thoughts of that, or if you had any struggles your own that you would like to share.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm an addict. I'm an alcoholic, a sober one now. So that's definitely the mental health issue that I maybe know a little bit about. I try to keep it. I know my experience, and I know the people I've kind of got sober with. That's kind of all I can know, right? But that was definitely something that was a huge struggle and a huge turning point. And that's when I was saying, like, when I finally felt comfortable in my skin, it was when I got sober. It wasn't exactly when I moved or because of college. It was when I got sober. Yeah.
Okay, I got a question. So, and you said you were alcoholic, or you are an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Okay. When do you realize, I'm trying to figure out how to ask this. When do you realize that you have addiction? You're going from someone who just likes to drink to, hey, I have a problem. Like, how do you know? You know what I mean? Or how did you know, per se, I would say?
I mean, I never drank or did drugs, and I'm going to use alcoholic and addict kind of interchangeably, because within me, it's sort of the same thing. I sort of think I haven't yet met someone that's like, oh, I can't drink, I can do coke. I haven't met that person. If it exists, then so be it. But for me, I'm a addict, alcoholic, whatever you want to call it. I can't do it. And I think early on, it was made pretty apparent that I didn't drink or drug like other people, right? I remember being like, oh man, like 8 or 9, dude. And my mom, I was throwing this, back then it was shuffling was like the shit, right?
Oh, that was way back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was throwing this like shuffling party, right? And I was all excited on it. And my mom was like, okay, we're getting like the snacks and shit. And I decided, I found the Red Bull, which at the time that was like little kid liquor, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to get so much Red Bull that I don't remember the night. At like 9 years old, I was like already, and my mom was like, no Red Bull. Like, and that was the next fucking 10 years, man, of like everything I did. My brain just doesn't have the thing that goes, you know what, I feel good, let's stop. I don't have that. That's not built into me. When I feel good, I go, well, if a beer made me feel good, then 2 will make me feel better. Until I'm puking and can't stand and have been drunk for 3 weeks straight. That's how I function. And I don't know what it is, but it's what it is,
No, understood. And so when did you realize, like, okay, like I want to be clean now, I want to be sober?
I'm in like a 12-step program, and we have something called a bottom. You hit a bottom, and man, some people have lost everything, and are homeless and are on the verge of death. For me, I came to a point where I had been miserable for so long, and I had thought that moving to a fucking new country would solve my problems, and
Mhm.
suddenly I have all the same problems. And I was in this kind of shitty apartment with my ex who just hated me, and like our relationship was terrible. The apartment was a mess. I was waking up at like 5 p.m. because I figured 5 p.m. was when it was okay to drink, so I'd wake up at 5 p.m., you know. And I was dying, man. I hadn't eaten in weeks. I was just, it was awful. And I ended up going to the doctor and trying to get pills to stop drinking, which doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And they said, well, you should go to detox. And I was like, well, no, I can't go to detox, because if I go to detox, then I'm an alcoholic, and I'm not an alcoholic, you know?
Mhm.
And I don't know. I think, you know, my ex did a lot for me. She would like measure out, because I got to a point where I couldn't not drink every day. And if I didn't, I would shake and
Mhm.
potentially seize.
Yeah.
So she, God bless her, man, she would measure how much I could have in a day. And she would measure out alcohol. And I'd fucking, you know, I was like 90 pounds, 6'3", you know, and I'd drink it down and my hands would calm a little. And then the next day she'd measure less. And we did that for a few days until I finally was like, okay, I just need to go to a meeting or something.
Mhm.
And that's where I found the program I'm in. And
Okay.
yeah,
How's the program been treating you so far?
man, you know, I didn't quite realize that this level of peace existed, right? And when I came in, I had it kind of in my head that um, that I had a drinking problem, and right away they said, you don't drink too much, you're a fucking alcoholic, you're self-centered, you know, you have all these different defects and qualities that make you an alcoholic. It's not just, if you drank too much, you'd stop drinking and the problem would go away. But
Mhm.
I would stop drinking and I'd be even crazier than I fucking was when I was drunk, you know.
Yeah.
And so I just had amazing people, you know, these old dudes who just kind of took me in, and man, you know, it's not, I don't have a great day every day, but it's a hell of a lot better, man.
Yeah,
So
and that's good to hear, man. I'm glad you're doing well. And what makes you wanna come on the podcast and be so open to talk about it? Because if I was looking at me, I'd be like, nah, I don't want nobody to know, what I'm going through. But I think it's kind of brave and courageous what you're doing right now. So what makes you want to be open about it?
well, thank you, man. Thank you for saying that. You know, the thing is, right, we live in a world right now where mental health is just starting to be able to be talked about,
Uh-huh.
but not if it's us, right?
Yeah.
Everyone posts all kinds of articles and shit, but will never say, you know, I have this.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I didn't tell anyone I was an alcoholic. I kept it really close to the belt, and I definitely kept it away from any kind of Instagram or social media or.
Mm-hmm.
But there are certain things, you know, when I come on here, like I only tell people I'm an alcoholic, and I only kind of go into it and open up about it if I think it could help someone.
Yeah.
And you know, I know you got young listeners, and a lot of what we see about recovery programs is these old biker dudes who are all fucking messed up and
Yeah.
relapsing all the time. And so if I can come on here and go, dude, I got sober at 19 and I'm a year and a half sober, and it fucking works. And I have a lot of fun, man. You know, like I got into skateboarding when I got sober. I started, music took off. Like I have so much fun, you know, and it's not, if I can come on here and talk to young listeners or whoever, even if it's just one dude who's like, oh fuck, man, I thought I had to wait
Mm-hmm.
till I was 40 to get sober. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, nah, man, you know, it happens when you're ready, and you only have to hit a bottom when you stop digging. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, you know, I think that's, I hope, my hope in all this is that someone, at least one person or someone in 3 years who stumbles upon this podcast goes, yeah, look, you know, like maybe I could do this too.
No, exactly, man. And you kind of helped me out. Follow up to my next question was like, so how did these past experiences help with your music, if it did help at all with your music or writing at all?
Yeah, well, I definitely, it helps to be clear-headed. Fuck, and I show up. I
Mm,
show up to my studio appointments now, right? Because I just was I showed up if I happened to show up to things. But I think too, you know, I do a lot of exercises and you know, service, and I go to like prisons and stuff and try to help the dudes out in there, and it allows me to get out of myself,
mhm.
and it allows me to not think about me, and that is huge with writing, because it, when I would write before, it was always like, listen to how much I'm hurting, listen to how hard my life is, right? That was my whole goal.
Yeah,
And now I kind of just can sit back and go, okay, what do I want to say? Do I want to, you know, do I want to put a positive song out? Do I want to put a song about this, about the opiate crisis, you know, because that was sort of something that was part of my story. So I was like, man, this is something I want to kind of fight back on, right? So we're doing this song.
all right. So, and if you were, say, if someone here listening right now is similar to yourself who's struggling with addiction, what would you tell them?
Hang in there, man. It, you know, it, and trust, trust someone other than yourself. You know, when I came in, I like didn't trust anybody, and I only trusted myself to get me where I was going,
Mm-hmm.
and and it didn't get me very fucking far, right? Like, I got me, you know, down and out. So
Yeah.
listen, you know, and there's a lot of programs. I they they tend to want to stay anonymous when it comes to press, radio, and film. So I'm not going to talk about the specific program I'm in, because, you know, say I talk about the program I'm in, and then we talk about politics, and I say, oh, you know, fuck Trump or some shit.
Yeah.
Now suddenly that program is tied to political things, which it shouldn't be. So
Yeah.
I tend to keep that anonymous, but I think everyone kind of knows the main programs that are out there for
Yeah.
addiction, and go check it out. And if you go to one meeting and it's not for you, go to another one. And if it's not for you, go to another one, because maybe that one will be, you know, and talk to people and listen. Because if I didn't listen, and if I stayed hard-headed and stubborn, I might not be alive today. So.
Yeah, dang, man, you hit me with the most inspiring podcast episode yet.
Awesome, man.
For real. And before we wrap this up, like, do you have any other music projects or anything we should look forward to coming out?
Well, hopefully you and me can do some shit. I'm hoping
Yeah.
we get on our music. Yeah, I got this album with Crow Cooks that we're maybe about midway through. Should be coming out maybe end of summer, and
Oh,
it's
hell
gonna
yeah.
be like yeah, we're doing like I'm really excited about it, man. It's like a sort of singer-songwriter with trap drums. I don't even really know how to explain it, but I'm really stoked on it, man. And then keep an eye out for the Speed Wobbles too. And Eric Fuller, the drummer, is working on a bunch of shit that I've kind of been around for, which is with Robert Francis and the Volturas, and oh man, so many other people. And I'm gonna get off this podcast and be pissed to myself I didn't remember. But yeah, there's so much music in Orange County, and I think, you know, there's a lot of honest shit coming out, and I'm stoked on it. And I know I'm forgetting. Oh, my dad just put out a record, actually. Check
Oh,
that out
okay.
too. Yeah, Be As It May. Check his record out. He just put out a single. Oh, he's gonna be so pissed. I forgot the name. How Far. And yeah, if you have a chance, check that out.
All right, Moses F, you got me nervous. I'm like, yo, your dad gonna disown you in a second, you know.
That's all right.
Hey man, but I appreciate having you on the pod. You're welcome anytime. Just hit me up. And man, I've got a good episode, man. Thank you.
Oh man, I'm so stoked to see what you're doing here, and I'm glad to help in any way, man. I think it's super cool you're doing this, you know, during these times and keeping it moving, man. That's super cool.
Hey man, I appreciate that, man. So this Tre Hendrix podcast, we out. And how do you stop recording? Hold up.